there has been talk of a Kadri, Nazem Kadri. Is he movable? Can he be traded? This sort of thing. I need to be convinced what the deal. How does this work? How can the principles involved make a deal work? But is this just media in the summer looking for shit to talk about, or do you think that there's some way that a deal is available somewhere?
To be fair, we talked about it since the trade deadline from his first year here. It's not just summer. Like there's not a lot of precedent for it. I don't recall guys his age with a half decade left on a deal ever moving, unless it was a salary dump. And if that's the case, why are the Flames bribing somebody else?
That's the question. Is it?
There's no comparable
for
the
line A scenario where it's like, why would we trade him if we're not like? I guess you get salary space, but you don't need that. That's not a major thing. I'm sure Kadri would like to feel like he's going into a dressing room that has a chance to win and be playing for cups, not trying to I'm a leader. Let's go work, guys. You got to be professional about this, right? That I would bet that Kadri would like a change of scenery. I just don't know what
it's hard to
facilitates it.
The money's not bad. He's worth it.
He's played hard.
He's better than a lot of teams' second line centers. Like you could go put him on the Rangers roster and he's better than Vinny Trocheck, I'd say. But the problem is you're committed for a half decade and there is an incredibly small list of players that, can retain, never mind get better.
But does it give you any like a Pavelski? I mean, there's a lot of guys that you're right. It's a small list, but it does happen.
So you're betting. It's a low probability bet. It happens.
And I think
like you can get dealt 2-7 against a king and still win your blackjack hand. It's against the odds, but it's not a good bet. And so which team is going to be so desperate for a second line center in the short term that they're willing to deal with a half decade of Kadri when he turns 34 or 5 this October?
Yeah. If there's a team though that I don't even know who it would be, but if you think you've got your chance to win, it's a nice piece. If this is your window to win and you can make it happen and he's available, and I don't know who else would be in the same scenario. Might be other pieces that you covet more, but I'm just saying he has one. If you think you're on the cusp and he's the piece you need, he would be appealing. I don't think he's an immovable object.
The point you make is
no precedent for it. That's the.
I mean, that's and maybe that I think it is valid.
We'll take him, and you get a third round pick. Like you might not be getting anything in return. It might be here's a favor to Nazem Kadri.
Yeah, and you can do that in a year or two.
And the thing of it is too, but in a year or two, maybe there's a GM out there that knows he's on the hot seat, knows he needs to win right now. Paying Nazem Kadri for 5 years, who gives a shit? But we're not going to be here in 5 years. That's sort of a thing. Because there isn't precedent, I don't think means that there's no chance of a deal. But I do find that's why I bring it up, and I struggle to see
75 points, 29 goals. He had a great year.
Yeah. That's the one thing. Could he help teams? Could he help teams that feel like they're close? You're damn right.
Yeah.
Because he brings a lot to the table. He's a shit disturber. He was really good for Colorado in their playoff run. That's the other thing he's got too, right? Is prior to that, it was just, well, this guy's a hothead. He'll hurt you in the playoffs because he gets suspended and hurt your team. Well, he proved that there was more to his game in Colorado on that run.
Like Colorado's a perfect example. He would be an upgrade on Casey Middlestad short term, and he would make them a better team. And you could put yourself back into that. We can go be a contender this year. But I just show me how the money works.
Because Rhett, you had said it. Unless you're a team that's Nazem, we love you. We want to, because he's got a no move, right? He probably have to win. How's your back? Because to us, it looks like maybe you've got a couple years before that back's really going to give you some issues. Like LTIR is an option, but then we're just kind of saying that maybe if you need to take 3 years, 2 years, 3 years off at the end of this deal to rest that back, we'd be okay with that.
He's got a 13-team no trade for years 5, 6, and 7.
Yeah.
He just finished year 2. So you should be able to move him freely. But again, trying to come up with a team where it fits and it makes sense is very difficult.
I don't get that. Like
There's
just said
31
his
other
stats.
teams. There's 31 other teams. Tell me a team where they're like, this makes sense for us. We should do it. Because
Wow,
the player
it's not.
makes sense. The contract doesn't. That's the problem.
Yeah, but okay. Can the Flames not chew some of it?
You don't want to eat salary for 5 years. You have 3 retention slots. And if you clog one up for each of the next 5 years, that's not good.
So this is the problem I've always had with all this, is that Kadri, what a great effing signing this was, and now he's an immovable object, even though, in my opinion, has exceeded what anyone would have ever thought when he signed that contract. It's just, I'm confused by it all. I didn't like the signing to start with. I didn't like the moves they were making. They sign him. He's exceeded what you would have expected, and now I don't get it.
And that's why you don't see 31-year-olds getting 7-year deals in free agency very often.
But you said at the time that's a good signing.
I know. Look, that deal was never going to be one that gave you value over 7 years. It was one that if you were going to push chips for 2 years, 3 years, that made sense. But if Huberdeau's not a star, this isn't a playoff team. And the 2 to 3 year window to go win that Brad Treliving was trying to save didn't exist.
Top 9, top 10 pick in that window.
Yeah, no, and it's what it was is, I think the old GM got emotional about how it ended with Gaudreau, which was the first domino that led to Tkachuk, which then was like, this city needs to punch back, which then means I didn't mind the deal. You got the guy that finished second in league scoring, a top-pairing defenseman, and a first-rounder for Matthew Tkachuk. Thank you, Matthew, for giving us your true intentions and allowing us to get some value back, a lot of value. The Mackenzie Weegar extension is one of the best value deals they have on the whole roster. He's not a problem at this point. He had a career year and does not look like he's in decline as a hockey player. The first rounder was 3 years down the road. You don't know where that team's going to pick, but first rounders are great capital to add other assets, or if you're not good, to pick players. The challenge was that you gave a player a contract. You'd never even seen that structure before. Brad Treliving's almost never given out a contract with much signing bonus money, never mind the buyout proof nature of Jonathan Huberdeau's deal. And he gave it to him before he played a single game in the Silks. That worked for Mackenzie Weegar. It didn't for Huberdeau. But once you've made that deal, you're saying we're still a cup contender. The Flames were people's picks to come out of the West that fall. I think Seravalli had them winning the West. People had him beating Edmonton in the division. None of it happened because Huberdeau was not a star, and Markstrom had a shitty year, and Sutter in the room fell apart. It was a disastrous season. But if you are thinking we can win after that Tkachuk trade, you can justify the Kadri deal in the short term. What no one saw coming was them being so bad they couldn't even make the playoffs in year 1. Hey guys, thanks for watching. Be sure to check out more of our content right here on the Flames Nation YouTube page. We had a bunch of great long-form interviews. You can check out some videos we've done as well outside of the studio. And of course, if you want more writing or merchandise stuff, flamesnation.ca or nationgear.ca. Appreciate you watching.